In the year 1162, a child was born into the harsh wilderness of Mongolia. His name was Temujin. His people were nomads, moving with the seasons, surviving only by their strength and their horses. There were no castles, no riches, only the endless sky and the brutal fight for survival. Life on the Mongolian steppe was unforgiving. The strongest ruled, the weakest were left to die. From the moment Temujin took his first breath, his fate had already been decided. He would either become a survivor or be forgotten by history. At just 9 years old, Temujin faced his first tragedy. His father had been poisoned by enemies, collapsing without warning. And with his death, his family lost everything. Without a leader, a family was worthless. Temujin's people turned their backs on him, leaving his mother and siblings to fend for themselves in the wilderness. The message was clear. If you cannot protect yourself, you do not deserve to live. But Temujin's mother was no ordinary woman. Holun refused to give up. She taught her children to hunt, fight, and endure. They had no weapons, no shelter, no tribe, but they had determination. At 15 years old, Temujin was captured. His enemies enslaved him, locking his neck in a wooden yoke, humiliating him, treating him like a prisoner. But Temujin wasn't just strong, he was smart. Most prisoners would have stayed broken. Temujin did not. He escaped, using his knowledge of the land, hiding in the rivers, evading his pursuers. It was his first battle against fate. And he had won. Temujin had nothing, no tribe, no home. But he understood the power of alliances. He sought help from Togril, leader of the powerful Kariye tribe, offering loyalty in exchange for protection. Togril agreed, but he saw Temujin as just another young warrior. Temujin remembered Berthe, girl he was promised to marry before his father died. He traveled across Mongolia, seeking her out. When he found her, the two were married in the traditions of the Mongol people. But happiness never lasted long in the Mongolian steppe. Disaster struck again. The Merkit tribe, a powerful enemy, raided Temujin's camp, stealing Berthe, taking her deep into their lands. Temujin was enraged. He knew that in Mongol tradition, kidnapped women became wives of their captors. He could not allow that. But Temujin was still weak. His army was small. To save Berthe, he swallowed his pride, begging help from Togril and his old friend Jamuka. After months of searching, he crushed the Merkit, burned their villages, and took Berthe back. She had survived. And within months, she gave birth to Temujin's first son, Yochi. But there was a dark suspicion. Was Yochi truly Temujin's son? Or was he fathered by a Merkit warrior? This question would haunt Temujin for the rest of his life. Temujin believed in loyalty over blood. He gave power to the strongest warriors regardless of their birth, but this angered Mongolian nobles who believed power was only for the aristocracy. Temujin's closest friend, Jamuka, turned against him. In 1185, Jamuka gathered thousands of warriors and attacked Temujin, brutally defeating him. Jamuka did not just win, he tortured Temujin's men, boiling them alive, showing the Mongols what happens when you challenge noble blood. But Temujin did not give up. He fled into exile, but he never forgot this lesson. Kindness does not win wars, power does. For 5 years, Temujin wandered through Mongolia, learning every weakness of his enemies, mastering new war tactics, gathering the strongest warriors who had nothing to lose. These were not noblemen, they were fighters. Temujin's army was different from any Mongol force before. They fought in precise formations, they moved as one, they followed complex signals, and above all, they obeyed without hesitation. By 1190, Temujin had rebuilt his power, and this time he was ready. He would not just fight tribes, he would fight all of Mongolia. At 28 years old, Temujin was no longer a rogue warrior. He had an army, a strategy, and a vision. He had learned the hard way that victory was not just about strength, but about control, discipline, and absolute loyalty. One by one, the tribes that had once humiliated him fell beneath his sword. He did not just defeat Mongolia's rulers, eradicated them. And soon, Mongolia would kneel to him. At 28 years old, Temujin finally had an army trained, disciplined, and loyal beyond reason. His first target was the Taichiut, the tribe that once humiliated him, enslaved him, and left him for dead. He fought not just with swords, but with strategy. His forces attacked in waves, disrupting the Taichiut before they could counter. And when their defenses crumbled, he showed no mercy. But Temujin was not just here for revenge, he wanted power. He did something unheard of. He absorbed his enemies, offering them a choice. Join me and live. Resist me and perish. Many warriors swore loyalty, making his army even stronger. Temujin was gaining power too quickly. This made Mongolian noble families uneasy, especially Togril, the powerful ruler of the Kharit tribe. Though he had once been Temujin's ally, now he feared him. Togril made a terrible mistake. He betrayed Temujin, plotting with Mongol nobles to ambush and kill him before he grew too strong. At 32 years old, Temujin faced his greatest battle yet against his former friend Jamuka and the treacherous Togril. The odds were against him. But Temujin had mastered a new way of fighting, a strategy that would change war forever. His army was faster, smarter, deadlier. He used fake retreats, luring enemy forces into traps. Then he struck without warning, destroying them from all sides. His warriors did not break rank, even when overwhelmed. Jamuka's forces collapsed. Victory was Temujin's, but when he captured enemy soldiers, he did something unheard of. He executed nobles but spared common warriors. Unlike Mongol tradition, he did not torture his enemies. He gave them a choice to join him. Togril had made too many mistakes. Mongolian nobles abandoned him, preferring Temujin's fair rule over Togril's corrupt leadership. Temujin hunted him down, and Togril, the most powerful ruler in Mongolia, was killed by his own men while fleeing. With Togril dead, his tribe absorbed into Temujin's growing empire. There was only one enemy left, Jamuka. At 38 years old, Temujin faced his oldest rival Jamuka, the childhood friend who had betrayed him. Jamuka knew he would lose, but he fought anyway. Jamuka's army crumbled. His warriors begged for mercy, and Temujin granted it. But when Jamuka himself was captured, something shocking happened. Jamuka refused to serve under his old friend. He accepted his fate, asking Temujin to kill him without torture and honorable death. Temujin agreed. And with Jamuka gone, there was no one left to challenge him. In 1206, at 44 years old, Temujin had done the impossible. He had united Mongolia. No Mongol ruler had ever controlled all tribes before. Now, he was no longer just Temujin. He was Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. Mongolia had always been a land of chaos, tribes fighting endlessly, leaders rising and falling. But Genghis Khan had ended that era. His rule was based on loyalty, discipline, and absolute obedience. Under Genghis Khan, Mongolia became unified, a single unstoppable force. And now he looked beyond Mongolia toward the entire world. By 1207, Genghis Khan ruled Mongolia. But ruling Mongolia wasn't enough. He wanted the world. To do that, he needed an army that was fast, disciplined, and unbreakable. Mongol soldiers trained like no army before. They weren't just warriors. They were a perfect war machine. Every soldier knew how to ride, shoot, and fight from childhood. They could fire arrows while galloping, hit targets while retreating, and strike from miles away before an enemy could react. There was no room for weakness in Genghis Khan's army. Disobedience meant death, but loyalty meant riches, land, and honor. Every soldier fought knowing that failure wasn't an option. China had stood for centuries, protected by massive walls, powerful cities, and heavily armored soldiers. But walls meant nothing to Genghis Khan. He knew that once a city was surrounded, it could not escape. His army adapted instantly. Mongols were masters of movement, hitting enemy forces from multiple angles at once. They used siege weapons stolen from the Chinese, launching flaming projectiles over walls, breaking fortresses brick by brick. After 2 years of brutal fighting, Western Xia submitted, offering Genghis Khan treasures, land, and soldiers. This was only the beginning. The Jin dynasty ruled northern China with an iron grip. Their capital, Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing, was heavily fortified, impossible to reach her, so they thought. Before attacking, Genghis Khan sent spies, gathering every detail: routes, defenses, weaknesses. When the time came, he struck like lightning. In 1211, his forces crossed the Great Wall, tearing through Jin strongholds. But it wasn't just brute force. He used psychological warfare, making enemies surrender before the battle even began. One of his greatest tactics was feigned retreat. The Mongols would pretend to flee, tricking the Jin army into chasing vehemently to turn around and obliterate them in surprise attacks. By 1215, Genghis Khan had conquered northern China. The Jin emperor fled, his empire broken. It was the first time in history that Mongolia had defeated an ancient Chinese dynasty. China had fallen. But Genghis Khan wasn't satisfied. He saw beyond the mountains, beyond the deserts, beyond the known world. His army had no rivals, no limits, only new lands to conquer. He turned toward Persia, Russia, and the Middle East, places filled with riches and powerful rulers who underestimated the man from the steppe. At 56 years old, Genghis Khan had conquered China and the steppes of Central Asia. But he wasn't looking for war. He wanted traderic silk, gold, and spices flowing between Mongolia and the Middle East. The Mongols had never fought Persia. They arrived in peace, offering gifts and proposing a partnership. But Persia made a mistake that would lead to its complete destruction. The Persian governor, Inalchuk, did not trust the Mongols. He arrested their traders, accusing them of spying, and then he did something unforgivable. He executed every single Mongol envoy, spilling their blood in the streets. When news reached Genghis Khan, he did not react. No rage, no threats, just silence. But anyone who knew him understood this was not the end. This was just the beginning. Even after the massacre of his envoys, Genghis Khan was willing to forgive Persia. He sent 3 high-ranking Mongol ambassadors to negotiate peace. The Persian ruler Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad had a choice: accept peace or face war. He chose war. In a final act of insult, the Shah murdered one Mongol diplomat and sent the others back disgraced, their heads shaved, a deep sign of disrespect in Mongol culture. He thought Genghis Khan would fear him. He was wrong. After hearing what the Shah had done, Genghis Khan stood up, turned to his generals and said, "They have chosen war. Send the army." The Mongols moved faster than any army in history. With 200,000 warriors, they crossed deserts and mountains at blinding speed, striking before Persia could even prepare. Instead of attacking one city at a time, the Mongols used multi-pronged warfare, hitting multiple cities at once, trapping the Persian armies in confusion and panic. The first target was Otrar, the city where Mongol envoys were murdered. Genghis Khan wanted justice, and he would take it by force. For 5 months, the Mongols bombarded Otrar, launching flaming projectiles over its walls. They dug tunnels, collapsing entire sections of the fortress, breaking it brick by brick. Otrar collapsed. Its soldiers fled or died. And now, Genghis Khan had the man responsible for the massacre, governor Inalchuk. They did not just kill him. They executed him in the most painful way possible, pouring molten silver down his throat, burning him from the inside. The message was clear: Mongol vengeance was absolute. The Shah still believed Persia could win. He sent his strongest armies to defend Samarkand and Bukhara, but nothing could stop Genghis Khan. Persian forces rode out of the city, confident they could defeat the Mongols in open battle. But the Mongols tricked them, pretending to retreat, then striking from all sides. Samarkand fell. The Mongols killed thousands. But they spared the city's craftsmen and scholars, sending them to Mongolia, using their skills to build the empire. With his empire destroyed, the Persian ruler fled, abandoning his people, running deep into the wilderness. Genghis Khan sent his fastest generals to track the Shah, chasing him thousands of miles until they finally cornered him in a remote island on the Caspian Sea. But death found him first. The Shah died in exile, alone, powerless. his empire erased from existence. Genghis Khan never even needed to kill him, his fear had done it for him. At 61 years old, Genghis Khan had destroyed Persia, Russia, and Central Asia. But he wasn't finished. He wanted the Islamic caliphates to bow before him. Some Persian forces refused to surrender. They escaped into the Caucasus, hoping the mountains would protect them. But Genghis Khan didn't just conquer cities, conquered landscapes. He used lightning-speed ambushes, cutting off their escape routes. No matter where they ran, Mongols were already waiting. Genghis Khan never forgot disloyalty. Western Shah had once surrendered to him, but now they refused to send troops to help him in war. That was enough to seal their fate. At 64 years old, he launched one of his most brutal campaigns, burning cities, massacring populations, executing rulers. He didn't just defeat Western Shah, he erased it from existence. The people of Western Shah begged to surrender. But Genghis Khan refused. He ordered his men to wipe out their entire royal family, ensuring they would never rise again. He had survived countless battles, assassinations, betrayals, and extreme conditions. But in 1227, something happened. Genghis Khan fell gravely ill during his final campaign. The Mongols never recorded exactly what happened. Some say he fell from his horse, breaking his spine. Others say he was poisoned by an enemy. Some even believe he had the bubonic plague. But even in his final moments, he was thinking about the future. He ordered his generals, "Continue the war. Leave no enemy standing." Mongols believed that their greatest leaders should be buried in secret so no enemy could ever disturb them. Legend says that his funeral escort killed every witness, ensuring no one could ever find his burial site. And to this day, his tomb remains lost. No ruler before or after him would ever hold so much land. From the freezing tundras of Siberia to the burning deserts of Persia, from the Great Wall of China to the edge of Eastern Europe, Genghis Khan ruled it all. What he built was more than just an empire. It was a machine designed to expand endlessly. His soldiers were trained for survival. His armies moved faster than any force before them. And when he died in 1227, his sons and grandsons continued his conquest, making the Mongol Empire even larger. Before Genghis Khan, the Silk Road was dangerous, filled with bandits, collapsing kingdoms, and endless wars. But under Mongol rule, the Silk Road flourished. For the first time in history, merchants could travel from China to Europe safely, carrying silk, spices, medicine, and knowledge between civilizations. His empire became the bridge that connected the world. Ideas spread faster than ever. Scientific discoveries, medical advancements, and technological innovations flowed across Mongol lands. Without Genghis Khan, the Renaissance in Europe may have taken centuries longer to begin. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer, he reinvented warfare. His tactics were so effective that modern military generals still study his strategies today. From Napoleon to modern generals, leaders have copied Mongol tactics. Their use of fast cavalry, shock assaults, and surprise attacks became standard military doctrine. Even today, military schools teach Mongol strategies, showing how an army of horsemen changed the art of war forever. Genghis Khan's legacy is one of contradiction. Some say he was a visionary, a ruler who united nations, expanded trade, and reshaped civilization. Others say he was a destroyer, a leader who massacred millions and erased cultures. Was he a genius or a monster? A ruler who brought progress or a warlord who caused destruction? History does not give us an answer. But one thing is certain: his name will never be forgotten.